In the city where dreams were traded for power, the city of Aurelia never slept. Neon lights pulsed like veins of a giant creature, and every street corner whispered a different promise. The air was heavy with ambition, and beneath the glow of endless advertisements, people walked with eyes full of hunger, not for food, but for power. Once Aurelia was a city of dreamers. Artists, inventors, and thinkers had built it from dust and hope. But over time, dreams had become currency. Now, the city belonged to the powerful, to those who had learned how to steal and sell the dreams of others. At the heart of this shimmering world stood Lara Voss, a young journalist who still believed in truth, though she worked in a newsroom that had long abandoned it. She sat by her desk, watching the headlines flicker across the screens. Mayor denies corruption allegations. Power corporation announces expansion. Dream market reaches record highs. That last one made her stomach twist. The dream market, a place where people literally sold their dreams, was the symbol of everything wrong with Aurelia. Technology had advanced to the point where dreams could be extracted, recorded, and sold to the wealthy, who used them as sources of inspiration, pleasure, or even control. The poor sold their dreams to survive. The rich bought them to rule. Lara's editor, a gray-haired man named Rico, leaned over her desk. "Voss," he said, chewing on his pen. "Drop the investigation on the dream market. We've got orders from above." "Orders?" she asked, her jaw tightening. "From who?" He gave her a tired look. "You know who. The same people who own the market and this paper." Lara glanced at the glowing city through the window. She could see the tall spires of the Dream Exchange building in the distance, shimmering like glass knives. "If they're silencing us," she said quietly, "it means I'm getting close." Rico sighed. "You can't win against them, kid. In this city, power eats the truth for breakfast." But Lara had already made up her mind. She'd lost too much to walk away. Years ago, her brother Eli had sold his dreams to pay for their mother's medical bills. At first, it seemed like a small price, a few memories, a few nights of beauty. But soon, he became hollow, emotionless, like a ghost of himself. One day, he vanished. The only clue was a receipt from the Dream Exchange. Lara swore she'd find out what happened to him. That night, she walked through the rain-slicked streets toward the lower district, the part of Aurelia the lights never reached. Broken signs flickered, and tired faces peered from shadows. This was where dreams were born and stolen. She found Juno, a hacker who specialized in uncovering hidden files from the Dream Network. Juno's tiny apartment was filled with wires, glowing screens, and the faint smell of burnt coffee. "Lara Voss," Juno said, raising an eyebrow. "You still chasing ghosts?" "I'm chasing the truth," Lara replied. "Can you trace this code?" She handed over a small data drive. "It's from one of Eli's old devices." Juno plugged it in and frowned as lines of encrypted data appeared. "This isn't just a dream record. It's something bigger." "What do you mean?" "This looks like part of the core archive. That's where the market stores the raw dream energy before it's distributed. Only the elite have access to it." Lara's pulse quickened. "Can you break into it?" Juno smirked. "I can try. But if I do, every security drone in the city will come after us." "Do it," Lara said. "I need answers." As Juno typed furiously, the room filled with the hum of data streams and the flicker of holograms. For a moment, Lara saw something, a fragment of a dream. Eli's face smiling. Then darkness. Then a man's voice. "Project Seraph. Phase 1 complete." "Who is that?" she whispered. Juno froze. "You're not supposed to see this. Project Seraph. It's the city's biggest secret." Before Lara could ask more, the screens went black. "Someone's tracing us," Juno shouted. "Get out." The windows shattered as drones burst through, their red lights blinking like eyes. Lara grabbed the drive and ran into the night, her heart pounding. Behind her, Juno's apartment went up in flames. She didn't stop running until she reached the old clock tower at the edge of the city. She hid there, trembling, as the rain poured down. The drive in her pocket felt like it was burning through her coat. Somewhere in that data was the truth about Eli, about the dream market, and about what Aurelia really was. And Lara Voss wasn't going to stop until she uncovered it. The morning sun rose weakly over Aurelia, filtered through layers of smog and neon haze. The city looked tired, like it had stayed awake too long chasing its own reflection. Lara Voss hadn't slept. She sat in the old clock tower, her clothes still damp from the rain, staring at the small silver drive in her hand. It was the only piece of evidence she had left, and the only thing that could connect her to her brother. She remembered Juno's last words before the explosion. Project Seraph, the city's biggest secret. Whatever Seraph was, it was hidden deep within the Dream Exchange, the heart of Aurelia's power. That was where she needed to go. But she couldn't do it alone. By noon, Lara found herself standing outside the Dream Exchange tower, disguised beneath a worker's coat and a cap. The tower stretched so high it disappeared into the fog. Around it, drones patrolled silently, and streams of people moved like mechanical parts of a giant clock. She entered through a side service gate using a stolen ID chip. Inside, everything was bright, cold, and sterile. Glass walls, mirrored floors, and white light that hurt the eyes. The walls pulsed faintly with energy, like the building itself was alive. She moved quietly through the corridors until she found a terminal room. A lone technician worked there, humming to himself. Lara approached him, pretending to check her badge. "Maintenance inspection," she said quickly. The man frowned. "Didn't get any notice." Before he could finish, she pulled a small stun pen from her pocket. A quiet zap, and he slumped over the console. Lara's hands trembled, but she pushed through the guilt. She needed answers. She inserted the stolen drive into the terminal. The system blinked and demanded a code. She remembered the phrase she'd heard in the dream fragment. Phase 1 complete. She typed it in. The screen unlocked. A wave of files appeared, blueprints, neural maps, transaction logs, and encrypted reports labeled Project Seraph. Confidential. Lara opened one. Her breath caught. Subject: Eli Voss. Dream donor candidate selected. Emotional resonance exceptionally high. Subject will be used to power Seraph network. Final prototype link established. Her brother. He wasn't missing, he had been taken. Used. Turned into part of the machine that fueled the dream market. But there was more. She opened another file, trembling. Objective: harness collective human dreams to generate energy for the city's control grid. Emotional content is converted into obedience frequencies, broadcast citywide. It hit her like a wave of ice. The dream market wasn't just a business, it was mind control. The government and the corporations were using the dreams of the people to feed a system that kept them compliant. Every night, as people slept, the city drank from their hope and fed them back obedience. A voice echoed behind her. "Well done, Ms. Voss. You've finally found it." Lara spun around. Standing in the doorway was Counselor Dorian Hale, head of the Dream Commission, the man who practically ruled Aurelia from the shadows. His gray suit shimmered faintly, the mark of someone who had replaced more than half his body with synthetic enhancements. His eyes glowed faintly blue. "How long have you been watching me?" she demanded. "Since you started your little investigation," Hale replied calmly. "Your brother was a special case. We needed his dreams. He had purity, something rare in this city." "You turned him into fuel," she shouted. "You're using people's minds to control them." Hale smiled faintly. "Control is peace, Ms. Voss. Without order, there's chaos. The market allows people to trade what they no longer need, their illusions. We give them stability in return." "You call this stability," she said bitterly. "You're killing everything human in them." He stepped closer. "You could have a place in this world, Lara. You're bright, passionate. Join us, and you'll never have to fear again." She stared at him, disgusted. "You think I'd sell my soul to the same system that stole my brother's?" His smile faded. "Then I'm afraid you'll have to join him." Before she could react, Hale pressed a button on his wrist. The floor panels split open, and drones rose from beneath, surrounding her. She grabbed the drive and dove for the exit, sprinting down the hall as alarms blared. Security doors slammed shut behind her. The lights turned red. She darted into a side corridor, leaping over a fallen guard, and burst into the elevator shaft. The elevator was descending fast. She grabbed a maintenance cable and slid down, sparks flying. Below, she could see the glimmer of an underground chamber, a vast, circular space filled with pods. Thousands of them. Each pod held a sleeping person, their heads encased in glass helmets connected by glowing tubes. The hum of energy filled the air. Their dreams, their lives, were being drained into a massive machine at the center. Lara's stomach twisted. This was Project Seraph. She climbed onto a walkway and stared in horror as faces flickered inside the pods. Workers, artists, children, even people she recognized from her neighborhood. And there, in the center pod, she saw him. Eli. He was pale, motionless, but alive. The machine pulsed around him, feeding on his dreams. Lara ran toward the pod, tears blurring her vision. She pressed her hand against the glass. Eli. It's me, Lara. Wake up. The monitors flashed red. The system detected interference. Sirens blared. Unauthorized access detected, a robotic voice warned. Lara ignored it. She reached for the control panel beside his pod, trying to release the locks. But the screen demanded a passcode. Behind her, heavy footsteps echoed. Hale's voice filled the chamber. You should have stayed away. Lara turned. You're a monster. Hale tilted his head. No, Ms. Voss. I'm a realist. Dreams make people weak. We simply repurpose them for something greater. He raised his hand. The drones aimed their weapons. Lara looked down at the console. She saw an emergency release command, but also a warning. Manual release will trigger system collapse. If she freed her brother, she might destroy the entire dream network. The city could fall. Her heart pounded. There was no time to think. She slammed the release button. The room exploded in light. The pods shattered, releasing streams of luminous energy that swirled like stars around them. The machine screamed, and the drones fell from the sky. Hale shouted, What have you done? Lara shielded her eyes as the light engulfed the chamber. And in that blinding radiance, she heard her brother's voice, soft, distant, but real. Lara, you did it. When the light faded, silence fell. The great hum of the dream network was gone. Lara opened her eyes slowly. The air smelled of smoke and ozone. Sparks rained from broken cables. Around her, shattered glass pods leaked glowing mist that drifted upward like lost souls. Eli lay beside her, unconscious but breathing. His face looked older than she remembered, pale but peaceful, as if freed from years of nightmares. Eli, she whispered, shaking him gently. Wake up, please. His eyelids fluttered. He looked at her, confusion in his eyes. Lara? Where am I? Tears filled her eyes. You're home. You're free. But even as she said it, she knew the city above them was far from safe. The dream exchange was burning, and without the energy from the dream network, Aurelia was beginning to die. The screens around them flickered weakly, showing collapsing data streams and red warnings. System failure, city grid unstable. Neural link severed. The sound of distant explosions echoed through the tunnels. Eli sat up slowly. What happened? You were part of something called Project Seraph, Lara said quietly. They were using your dreams, everyone's dreams, to control the city. I destroyed it. He looked at her in shock. You destroyed it? I had no choice, she said, voice trembling. You were dying. They were enslaving people. Eli touched her shoulder gently. Then you did the right thing. But above them, Aurelia was unraveling it on the streets. Chaos had erupted. For years, people had lived under the quiet spell of the dream network. Their emotions softened, their fears erased, their anger numbed. Now all that control was gone. The citizens woke up to themselves for the first time. Crowds poured into the streets, confused and afraid. Some wept, others screamed. Screens went dark. Machines stopped working. The power grid flickered out. Without the dream network, The city lost not just its electricity, but its illusion. Old memories came flooding back to people. Pain, guilt, longing. The emotions that had been stolen from them for so long returned all at once. And at the center of it all, Counselor Hale stood in the ruins of his tower, staring up at the sky. "Idiots," he muttered. "They don't understand what they've lost." He turned toward a group of guards who still obeyed him. "Find her. Bring me Lara Voss alive." Back in the underground chamber, Eli stood weakly beside his sister, trying to remember. "I saw things," he murmured. "When I was inside, it was like dreaming and dying at the same time." "What did they do to you?" Lara asked softly. "They made us dream the city's peace," he said. "We weren't just feeding the system, we were shaping it. Every night, they forced us to imagine happiness, safety, control. That's what powered the grid." Lara shivered. So the city's calm wasn't real. It was built on stolen hope. He nodded. "They told us we were heroes, dreamers for the greater good. But when I realized the truth, they locked me deeper inside." He looked around the room, eyes filled with sorrow. All these people, they never woke up. Lara clenched her fists. "Then we'll make it right." They began climbing toward the surface, following emergency lights through narrow tunnels. The air grew warmer, filled with the smell of smoke and fear. When they reached the street level, the sight stopped them cold. Aurelia was burning. Neon towers flickered in and out of power. Holograms stuttered. The sky glowed orange from fires. People ran through the streets, some looting, others praying. "The city's losing its mind," Eli whispered. "No," Lara said, her eyes hard. "It's remembering it." They took refuge in an old cafe in the lower district, a place where Lara had once written stories about hope. The windows were shattered, the lights dead, but the smell of coffee still lingered faintly. Eli sat by the counter, staring out at the city. "You think we can fix this?" Lara hesitated. "Not alone. But maybe people will start to see the truth. They'll see how they were used." He looked down at his hands. "I don't know if they'll thank you, Lara. You took away their comfort." She sighed. "Maybe comfort isn't what we need. Maybe we need to feel again." Outside, crowds were gathering, angry, frightened, desperate. Rumors were spreading that the government had been controlling dreams. Some shouted Lara's name, calling her a savior. Others cursed her for breaking the city. Then, a broadcast cut through the static of broken screens. Counselor Hale appeared, his face cold and calm. "Citizens of Aurelia," he said, "the Dream Network has been sabotaged by a terrorist named Lara Voss. Because of her, our peace has ended. Order will be restored. Any who shelter her will face punishment." Eli looked at his sister. "He's turning them against you." Lara nodded grimly. "Then we need to show them the truth." They weren't alone. From the shadows of the cafe, a group of people emerged, faces Lara recognized from her old investigations. Former factory workers, underground journalists, and dream technicians who had escaped the system. One of them, a woman with silver hair and oil-stained hands, stepped forward. "You're Lara Voss. You started this." Lara tensed. "If you're here to hand me over?" The woman shook her head. "No. We've been waiting for someone to break the chain. You freed us." Another man spoke. "The Dream Network is gone, but we still have the machines. We can rebuild them, not for control, but for freedom." Lara's eyes widened. "You mean?" He nodded. "A new system. One that connects people's dreams without stealing them. A network built on truth." Eli smiled faintly. "A city where dreams belong to everyone again." Lara looked around the ruined cafe. Outside, chaos still reigned, but inside, here, there was a spark of something else. Hope. She took a deep breath. "Then let's begin." But hope would not come easily. Within hours, Hale's enforcers, armed drones, and synthetic soldiers swept through the streets, searching for her. Broadcast towers began transmitting propaganda, urging citizens to surrender anyone who had dreamed of rebellion. Lara and her allies moved underground, hiding in the ruins of old subway tunnels. They called themselves the Remembered because they refused to forget who they were before the system. Eli worked with the technicians, trying to salvage fragments of the old dream network. Lara wrote messages and sent them through hacked frequencies, urging the people to resist. Dream freely. Her words echoed through the static. Remember who you were. Remember what they took. In the dark, her message spread like fire. People began painting symbols of open eyes on walls, the mark of the remembered. The city was waking up. I and his private office. Hale watched the rebellion grow on dozens of monitors. His face was expressionless, but his hands trembled slightly. An aide entered. "Sir, our soldiers can't control the crowds. The city's infrastructure is failing." Hale turned slowly, his artificial eyes glowing. "Then it's time for Phase 2. He opened a hidden panel and revealed a small crystalline core pulsing with blue light. "This," he said softly, "is the last fragment of the Seraph Protocol. If they want dreams, I'll give them nightmares." He placed the crystal into a slot on his wrist. The room darkened. A low hum filled the air. "Activate the broadcast," he ordered. In the tunnels below, Lara suddenly felt a vibration run through the walls, a cold, familiar hum. The air shimmered. Eli's face went pale. "No, he's restarting it." "The network?" Lara asked. He shook his head. "Worse. He's twisting it. He's turning every freed mind into his weapon." Lara clenched her fists. "Then we stop him, once and for all." And for the first time since the city's fall, she saw it clearly. The path to redemption wasn't just in breaking the system, it was in rebuilding what came after. The tunnels trembled like a living thing. Lara could hear the hum of machines echoing through the underground, low and cold, like the heartbeat of something monstrous waking from sleep. Eli clutched his head, grimacing. "It's starting. What's happening to you?" Lara asked. "It's the Seraph core," he said through clenched teeth. "I can feel it. It's feeding on the dream residue, all the freed energy from the network." Hales turned it into something new. "Into what?" Eli looked up, his eyes full of dread. "Into fear." Above ground, the citizens of Aurelia looked to the sky as it changed. The neon lights flickered red, one by one. Holographic billboards glitched, faces twisting into grotesque shapes. The city's once beautiful skyline became a flickering nightmare. Every screen, every speaker, every smart lens in the city began to broadcast a single message. "This is your truth. This is your punishment." The voice was Hale's, cold, commanding, and distorted. And then the dreams returned, not soft, not beautiful, but twisted. People fell to their knees as flashes of their worst memories appeared before their eyes. Pain they had forgotten came rushing back, every failure, every betrayal, every grief. Hale had taken the dreams they once sold and turned them into weapons. The dream market's stolen memories had become the city's new chains that and the tunnels. The members of the Remembered scrambled to protect their systems. The old computers crackled with interference as Hale's signal invaded their frequencies. "He's overriding everything," a technician shouted. "If he reaches full signal strength, he'll have the entire city under his control again." Lara slammed her hand on the table. "There has to be a way to stop it." Eli took a deep breath. "There is, but it won't be easy. The core that powers his broadcast is the same one they use to extract dreams. If we can reverse the process, we can flood the system with raw emotion, truth instead of fear." Lara looked at him sharply. "How?" "I can connect to it," Eli said quietly. "I still have part of the interface inside me. If I link in again, I can rewrite the signal." Lara's eyes widened. "You'll die if you do that." He smiled weakly. "Maybe. But if it means saving the city, it's worth it." "No," she said firmly. "I won't lose you again." Eli touched her hand gently. "You won't. This time, you'll be there to pull me out." The journey to the tower. They gathered what little they had, portable transmitters, data cables, and the last of Juno's hack devices. Lara led the group through the underground passages toward the Dream Exchange Tower, now half in ruins, but still glowing faintly red. Everywhere they went, the world seemed twisted. People stumbled through the streets, haunted by visions only they could see. Buildings pulsed with ghostly images, fragments of old dreams bleeding through the air. Lara and her small band moved quietly, helping whoever they could. Some citizens joined them along the way, faces hard with determination. They weren't rebels anymore. They were survivors, dreamers who refused to bow. When they reached the tower's base, they saw the horror Hale had unleashed. The lower floors were filled with people connected to makeshift dream pods, their minds trapped in repeating nightmares. "Dear God," someone whispered. "He's feeding on their fear." Lara clenched her jaw. "Then we take it back." They climbed through shattered hallways and smoke-filled rooms. Security drones hovered aimlessly, malfunctioning from the overload. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Eli stopped at a junction and connected a cable to the wall. "I can trace the core's frequency from here." The screen lit up, showing a pulsing blue signal deep within the tower's heart. "That's him," Eli said. "The Seraph core is linked directly to Hale's neural implants. If we can reach the central chamber, I can merge with it." "Then let's move," Lara said. But as they approached the elevator shaft, the floor beneath them shifted, and a voice echoed from the intercom. "Still chasing ghosts, Ms. Voss?" Hale's voice.
Calm.
Amused. "You could have built something beautiful with me. Instead, you chose chaos. Look outside. Your rebellion gave them nothing but pain." Lara looked up at the speaker. "You call this peace? You're just afraid of people who can think for themselves." "Thought leads to conflict," Hale replied coldly. "Dreams lead to disappointment. But fear keeps people safe." The line cut off. Eli looked at her. "He's watching us. He'll be waiting." "Good," Lara said, her eyes fierce. "Then he won't see it coming." They reached the heart of the tower, a vast circular room lined with black glass. In the center stood the Seraph core, pulsing like a giant heart of light and shadow. Hale stood beside it, calm and composed, the blue glow of the core reflecting in his artificial eyes. "I admire your persistence," he said. "You've destroyed paradise twice now. But this time, there's no coming back." He touched the core, and the air shimmered. The room filled with ghostly images, faces of the sleeping citizens, their nightmares projected in the air. Screams echoed through the walls. Lara felt her knees weaken, her own fears clawing at her mind. The memory of losing Eli, the guilt of destroying the city, the doubt that she'd ever make things right. "Don't listen," Eli said, gripping her hand. "He's using the core's resonance to amplify our fears. It's an illusion." Hale smiled faintly. "Illusions built the city. Without them, you are nothing." Lara lifted her gun. "Maybe. But we still have something you never will, hope." She fired. The bullet hit the core's shield, shattering part of it. The energy inside flared violently. Hale staggered, sparks flying from his arm. Eli ran to the terminal and connected his neural link. "I'm in," he shouted. The lights flickered wildly. Data streams burst across the walls. Lara turned toward Hale, who was advancing slowly. "You can't win," he said. "Even if you destroy me, the city will devour itself." "Then we'll rebuild it," she said. "Without you." She ran toward him as he raised his hand. Energy crackled from his wrist. The blast hit her, throwing her backward. Pain tore through her chest, but she forced herself to stand. Eli screamed, "Lara, hold him off." Eli's fingers danced across the console. Reversing the signal now. The core pulsed brighter and brighter, its blue light turning golden. Hale turned in horror. "What are you doing?" "Giving the city back its dreams," Eli said, smiling through tears. The core exploded in light. Waves of energy rippled outward, through walls, through screens, through every mind in Aurelia. People in the streets fell silent. The red haze faded. The nightmares vanished, replaced by memories of laughter, love, and lost beauty. For the first time in years, Aurelia dreamed freely. Hale screamed as the light consumed him. His artificial body cracked and shattered. "You fool. Without control, they'll destroy each other." Eli whispered, "Then let them be human." The core erupted. Lara fell to her knees as the blast washed over her. The floor crumbled, light flooding everything. And for a moment, a single heartbeat, she saw Eli smiling, surrounded by golden light. Then he was gone. When the dust settled, the tower stood silent. The core was gone. The machines were dead. Lara lay among the ruins, weak but alive. She looked up at the sunrise breaking through the smoke, the first real sunrise Aurelia had seen in decades. She whispered softly, "We did it, Eli." When Lara woke, everything was quiet. The air smelled of smoke and rain, but also of something new, clean, alive, and unfiltered. The Dream Exchange Tower was nothing more than a broken shell now. Its shining glass walls lay scattered across the plaza like shards of a fallen illusion. She pushed herself up, her body aching. Sunlight poured through a tear in the clouds, golden and soft. It had been years since the city had seen sunlight like this, real sunlight, not the artificial glow of the Dream Market's holograms. She looked around. People were emerging from the shadows, dazed, trembling, but awake. For the first time in a long time, the citizens of Aurelia were truly awake. The city, without chains. The power lines that once carried dreams were silent. The billboards were blank. The constant hum of machinery had stopped. In the distance, Lara saw a group of children chasing each other through puddles left by the storm. They laughed, their voices echoing off the ruined buildings. It was such a simple sound, laughter, but it filled her with tears. A man approached her slowly. His clothes were dirty, his face pale, but his eyes were alive. "Are you her?" he asked quietly. "Lara Voss." She hesitated, unsure if he meant it as praise or accusation. "Yes," she said. He nodded. "You destroyed their machines." "I had to," she said softly. "They were stealing everything from us." He looked out at the horizon. "I remember now my wife's face. I hadn't seen her smile in years." He bowed his head. "Thank you." Lara said nothing. She didn't feel like a hero. She felt like someone who had broken a great and terrible thing, and was now standing in the pieces of it, wondering what could be rebuilt. Over the next few days, the city changed. The government's broadcast ceased. The drones lay rusting in the streets. People came together, confused, afraid, but united by something they hadn't felt in decades: freedom. Without the Dream Network, food and power became scarce. But people began to share again. They told stories. They sang songs. They lit fires in the streets, not for destruction, but for warmth. Lara helped where she could, distributing what supplies she found, guiding lost children to safety, comforting those who woke screaming from the memories that had returned. And every night, when she looked at the sky, she thought of Eli. Sometimes she could almost hear his voice, soft, distant, like a whisper carried by the wind. "You gave them back their dreams, Lara. That's all I ever wanted." She would smile through her tears. "You gave them back their hope," she'd whisper. "I just lit the spark." Weeks passed, and the city began to rebuild. From the ashes of the remembered movement rose a new group, the Dreamkeepers. They weren't leaders or rulers. They were builders, thinkers, and storytellers, people who believed that dreams should belong to everyone, not to the powerful few. Lara became one of them, not as a hero, but as a guide. She taught people how to record their stories, how to write again, how to speak their truth without fear. One night, a young girl approached her with a worn-out tablet. "Miss Lara," she said shyly, "I found this in the ruins. It still works. Can you teach me how to write on it?" Lara smiled. "Of course. What do you want to write about?" The girl thought for a moment, her eyes bright. "About a world where people dream together, not for money, not for power, just because it's beautiful." Lara's throat tightened. "That's a good story," she said softly. "Start there." Months later, the first festival was held in the heart of Aurelia, not to celebrate the old ways, but to honor the city's awakening. Lanterns floated above the streets, glowing softly like tiny stars. Children painted murals on the broken walls, turning the scars of the past into colors of hope. Lara walked among them, her heart heavy but peaceful. She stopped at one mural that made her breath catch. It showed a man standing in light, smiling, surrounded by swirling dreams. Eli. Below the image were words written in bright gold. He gave us back the sky. Lara traced the letters gently, tears spilling down her cheeks. You're still here, she whispered, in every dream they have. Behind her, the sound of music rose, rough, unpolished, but full of life. People danced in the streets, holding candles and laughing. For the first time in a generation, the city felt alive. Aurelia was no longer a city of control. It was a city of rebirth. That night, Lara returned to the ruins of the Dream Exchange Tower. The moonlight washed over the shattered floor where the core had once pulsed. She sat down and pulled out a small piece of crystal, the last fragment of the seraph core she had found among the rubble. It no longer glowed, but when she held it close, she felt warmth. Hey, Eli, she whispered. The city's changing. They're dreaming again. Real dreams this time. The wind rustled through the ruins like a quiet sigh. She smiled faintly. You'd like it here now. It's not perfect, nothing ever is. But it's honest. She looked up at the sky. For once, it wasn't filled with smoke or holograms. Stars glittered faintly above, real and untouched. Maybe, she said softly, we finally learned that dreams aren't meant to be traded for power. They're meant to be shared. Years later, travelers spoke of a city unlike any other, a city that had once drowned in illusions but found its soul again. Aurelia became known as the City of Dreamers, a place where art, invention, and kindness were the new currency. And at the center of the city stood a statue, not of rulers or soldiers, but of two figures standing side by side, their hands raised toward the sky. At its base were the words Lara herself had written. In the city where dreams were traded for power, we learned that true strength lies not in control, but in the courage to dream freely. As the years passed, that message became Aurelia's creed. And on quiet nights, when the stars burned bright and the wind carried whispers through the streets, some said they could still hear two voices, one of a woman and one of a man, laughing softly, watching over the city they had saved.